Hi, everyone, and welcome to the She Rocks red carpet, virtual red carpet. We are here in our living rooms, and Lzzy Hale is in her studio.
Yeah. Thank you so much, John, for having me.
We are so lucky to have you. Congratulations on your She Rocks award.
Oh, thank you so much. It was such a neat thing. It's already been a year ago since all of that. Well, back it's another lifetime ago now, right? But what an amazing feeling just to be really just surrounded by all of these women that are just all walks of life, but we all had this common thread, and just it was that was very much a you could feel that in the air that night. So.
Yeah, I think so. And that was just even, I mean, you've been to the awards, and is there anyone that like you really admire that you would either love to nominate or to be able to present an award to? Who are some of your heroes?
Well, honestly, my I that I'm getting to tick one of those off my bucket list this year, and that's with Nancy Wilson from Heart. The Wilson sisters. So, technically, I grew up in the '90s, but I was always obsessed with '80s and '70s hard rock and metal. So, I remember Heart being the very first female fronted rock band that I really like absorbed. I actually like understood that this was a thing that was going on, and I remember that like light bulb going off, being like, wow, like girls can do that too, and I'm already a girl, so I already got that going for me. So like, so all I got to do is rock. It made the dream a little less impossible. So, I owe a lot to those women.
And you're gonna be honored in the same year with her. That's wonderful.
Absolutely, it's such a wonderful thing to be surrounded by such talented girls. Something that I feel strongly about just in the past maybe 5 or 6 years is that I think it's really important for women to be proud of being a woman and not try to lend themselves into this kind of masculine world just because that's been the game for a long period of time. I think it's very important for little girls to see women doing the things that they dream about doing, and because it's just there's so much hope there. It's such a weird, instead of thinking of yourself like you're a weirdo for being a girl wanting to be in a male industry or vice versa, just you have this opportunity to just own yourself and be like, okay, I'm not alone. So.
Yeah. Well, I think it's quite a blessing for you. You were saying that like you're being surrounded with some great acts this year that you admire, but also I think that if we look at your career, you're surrounded by a lot of nice, cushiony, comfortable, family members. You come really from a rock musician family, and I think do you think that helped you, just being able to be the front person for a band and say like I have my family here to back me up. Is that
Absolutely. I think I look back and think about how it could have gone so differently. If my parents had not been supportive, I probably would have waited. I love my parents, and I always took a lot of their advice, and for better or worse, as a kid, and so I think that when my brother and I started this band when I was 13 and he was 10, and I remember having the conversation with my parents about how this is all I want to do, and where do you know any place else that we can play, and like, would you mind driving us to the shows, and I remember my parents being like, absolutely, we'll go with you, and I remember them talking to me about how that 9 to 5 job that everybody always says that they hate, that's always going to be there for you, but you're going to have to go for, if this is really what you want to do, they suggested going full bore right in the beginning so you can really figure it out, and then you have time. If you, let's say, give it a couple years, if you hate it, then you have time to do something else. But so it was just kind of like this weird, like, no backup plan until further notice and we've just been doing it ever since. But yeah, there's a certain thing that goes on with that. There's a confidence that you have when it's not just you against the world. It's you, and your little brother believes in it, and your parents are supportive, and then you find your best friends that have this like the same mentality that you have, and so it just it makes for a better situation, obviously.
for sure? And I would say that, I mean, you are a very real person. speaking with you. It seems like you're not afraid to be able to just reveal about yourself. Do you think that that made it easy? The fact that like I know I've known a lot of bands, and there's a lot of things that happened where I'm sure that there are conflicts of like creative ideas, but overall it seems like you've found a really great happy place for yourself in working with, you know, your brother and your friends.
Oh, absolutely. You know, we have it's wonderful when you can have people that it's like a marriage, you know, you have to grow with each other. And again, just so happens that it, you know, I have three boys that I'm married to and one is my brother. That sounds really weird, but but it's a strange situation. But yeah, you're in this relationship, this musical relationship, this friendship with each other, and nobody's been through the things that you've been through together. You know, like there's nobody on the outside of that inner circle that can really understand what we've all done and how hard we've worked and but we all have this tremendous amount of respect for each other. There is the weird thing about Halestorm is that each and every member can do one thing very well that the rest of them can't, that the rest of the members can't. So like I bring something to the table that they don't have, and each one of them brings something to the table that I don't have, that versus, you know, RG doesn't have Josh, and so we know that without of all of us like paying attention to each other and supporting each other with our strong suit, that, you know, if there's those four pillars, the ceiling's gonna fall down, you know. So there's this equal weight and responsibility. My dad used to always early on, because my dad was in bands back in the 80s, and like nobody that anyone would ever hear of, but he had a really good time doing it. And I remember him telling me that his dad analogy is that you're like pushing this cart up a hill, and it's going to be a lot easier with all four of you pushing the weight. If two of you fall off, it's going to be a lot harder to get it to the top. So it's like we just had that mentality forever.
Sure. Or like superhero groups, right?
Yeah.
Some may not have the greatest powers, but when they're together, they're unstoppable.
With our forces combined.
That's right. Are you drinking a monster drink like I am?
Well, almost. I made a very strong red eye this morning, so
Okay.
so it's
That's
close.
very good. Take a sip. I'll give you a second. I was going to ask you too, you know, what do you think you've learned about yourself this year? Because obviously, I think we've all had a lot of introspection. What is that? What is it that you've learned about yourself this year that was maybe fascinating?
I think I've learned a lot about myself, both in a negative and positive and everywhere in the spectrum way this year. I think that both the good things about my life, the brilliant, happy, you know, parts of that, you know, reflect my joy, but also the darker side of whatever comes with me. Both of those things have been put under a magnifying glass this year, because you don't have you're consumed with this. You're in this kind of time that keeps it's ongoing. There's no real plan. There's no real like future die hard. Like it's probably been over 22 years since I've gone this long without a live show, and meaning like before the band started, because at least we had a bowling alley gig like once a month. I mean, that's I'll take it. But overall, I think that for me, I've been looking at it like it's a gift, because I don't have the distractions. I don't have, you know, this mission, you know, which is like, you know, touring, you know, 250 dates a year. And then you go and you make a record. Everything's deadline. Everybody has a plan. There is a future. So I've really had to look at myself and say, well, who am I without all of that? And I've realized some really amazing things about myself that I didn't know that I was capable of, you know, during this time. And I've also realized a lot of things that I'm like, oh, I got to change that. So it's been it's been a lot of self-discovery.
That's great though. And do you feel that you've spent like, I mean, I would imagine for an artist that this was a year of writing and hopefully, and you know, were there skill sets that you didn't know you had that you're like, hey, I'm pretty good at this. Like, you know, I need to get back on the piano again, or other. I mean, I know you play piano as well, but I mean, are there other instruments that you explored or something?
It's actually been more on the technical side this year. So, and I'll actually, it's funny because I just had a call with my producer the other day that wraps all of this up in a nice little bow. But, so for the past like what year and a half that we've been, kind of off the road, and we haven't been in a studio for a little bit, and I've had probably about 10 or so collaborations this year that I've all had to do from home. So I've learned how to produce my own vocals
Wow.
and comp, and like in a professional sense, I've an amazing vocal chain, and it's really funny because I had a conversation with my producer the other day, and he's like, "Yeah, I really want you to take a stab at all of these vocal takes that we've been doing professionally in the studio, but do them at home because there's a different personality that comes with that." So I'm like, "Oh, interesting," right? So am I going to be able to beat what we can do in the studio? Yes. So that's been fun to like have that as your superpower. Also, I feel like just in general as a songwriter, um I I've had to trust myself above everything else this year. There isn't anybody giving me advice. There isn't anybody there that I would unknowingly, you know, take as like the be all end all, advisor. Like it's had to be me this year. So it's been nice to like make those decisions either creatively and be confident in what you're creating and following and chasing whatever gets you excited. So yeah, it's a lot of my truth this year.
That's great. I mean, it sounds like I'm just curious. I wonder, what do you suppose it is about the vocals that were done at home that's different about the studio?
Um, Something that I didn't think about that when I told my guitar player about that, he's like, "Well, Lizzie, you're a performer, so if you're singing in front of somebody, you're gonna want to go all out. You're gonna want to impress them in some way. It's gonna be a different personality." I'm like, "Oh yeah, most likely. I'll buy that for $1. That's a good opinion." But I do think that there is something about when you have that quick, like, okay, so if I'm recording vocals, let's say here, and I have my my rig over here and I'm recording, I know when I've gotten the right take. I also know that in my own time I can just real quick do it again. I don't have to like wait for somebody to be there, like whether engineer or producer, to be like, "Oh, do it again." No, I know I have to do it again. I'll get it. But and then there are some things that I don't know. I haven't quite figured this out yet, but there is a different uh, timbre in my voice too that ends up happening. I think maybe it's just because I'm relaxed and nobody's watching. There's like this kind of private situation, and you're not a goldfish in a with the plexiglass. So I think there's something that has to do with that, and as in like kind of putting more of that, whatever that internal personality that maybe isn't necessarily wanting to come out in front of people, it's okay to do that in my own private spot. So yeah, I don't know. It's been a very interesting experiment.
I think it's a really great takeaway for the year. You learned something about yourself, and it grew you as a musician. It's interesting that your producer would come back and say, "We like what's happening here." So I think that's kind of a
Yeah.
nice takeaway.
Oh, absolutely. It's this year has, well, and spilling over now into 2021. It's been a trying time for everybody, and I think that it's important, and not only to like remind people, but for me to like remember that everybody's going through the same thing. Everybody's doing the same thing. Like I can't wait to embrace like all of my new friends. Like I've met so many amazing people like you, and just a handful of like musicians that like we email all the time now, and we're texting, but we never actually like hugged or met in person. I'm like, no. So I can't wait for all of that to happen too. So
Yeah. So that's your hope for the new year, is that you'll be able to actually meet these people that you
yeah,
made online relationships with.
absolutely. I want to meet. I want to collab. I want to tour with them. I already know that given this year, and I've really tapped into this like emotional thing where it's like, even if it's like a children's movie, like I'll definitely cry if there's an emotional part to it. So that's new this year too. But I know that the next time that I'm actually in front of a live audience at a concert, I don't know if I'm going to be able to hold the happy tears back. So it's just, I miss everybody, and it's a hole that cannot be filled with anything else. And so I'm going to work toward that.
Well, this is the perfect way to ring in a new year for sure. And can you just tell me why you think it's important that there are awards, ceremonies like the She Rocks Awards?
I think it's so important to have these award shows and these ceremonies. And She Rocks has absolutely been heading up the forefront on the corner, especially like just with the opportunities for women. And for me, it's important because it gives all of the young kids, and whether it means young as in like actually young or just green in the business, it gives all of us hope. It gives you something to work toward. It when you're familiar with some of these artists, and when you see them being honored, and it validates you as in like your own kind, and especially with the She Rocks Award, within our own gender, all of us have similar stories. All of us have been in situations that a lot of our counterparts have not, and we have amazing allies. And then also, I think that in the reverse, it's good for these women to be honored and in themselves have that validation from their peers, from the people surrounding them that are like, no, we know how hard it is. We know what it takes to get into it, to create something and then put it out in the world. And then, it could either be amazing or a disaster, but having that bravery. And so honoring, these women this year, and these peers and these idols of mine, I'm so honored to be able to host it and do that this year, because we're all in this together, and we got to stand up for each other.
Yes. I think it's great. I have gone to the award many times, and I really enjoy it. And I come from a very matriarchal family. I have moms, sisters, aunts. Everyone was the women rule everything in my life, and still do as a makeup artist. Yeah, it's
Awesome.
all about ladies all the time, for me. So I'm very honored, and also feeling the same way that you do, that I get to work with people that, it's funny that two members of the honorees are clients of mine, which is great this year.
Amazing.
I know. But let me ask you one other thing. This
Oh yeah.
off on that. One last thing. Just collaborating. Who is it that you would like, who would you like to collaborate with this year? I know you're making plans now. Is there anything that you can talk about for 2021? Or what do you think?
We're currently recording a record, and it goes in and out because as the surges ebb and flow with the pandemic, it's like, all right, everybody got tested, all right, we're safe, go in. And then it's like, all right, there's a surge again, everybody take a break. It's like very long process. No dates yet, no end, yet. We're just creating, but just moving it along. But honestly, I've been in touch with I got the opportunity to open up for a couple times for one of my idols, and he and I have become really good friends over the past couple years, and he's such a sweetheart, and he's the only heavy metal guy that will ever talk shoes and leather jackets with me, and it's Mr. Rob Halford. So I'm going to I have not asked him yet, but I know in the future I'll be like, hey, do you want to do a song? So that would be a dream of mine.
I'm sure you're going to make it come true. All right. Well, thanks so much. I don't want to take any more of your time because I know, but is there anything else you wanted to say, or to any of the honorees out there, or?
To all of the honorees, you are beautiful and you are so powerful. And I hope that you know that this whole experience and getting to know all of your talents and all of the ways that you've impacted the world has really inspired me. And it's so humbling to be a part of all of this with all of you guys. And for you, John, I can't wait. I know that you did a tutorial about makeup for online for
I
like
did.
this kind of thing. I have not watched it yet, but that is like up next on my list because
Okay.
it's becoming a thing. This whole year it's been a long
Isn't it
journey.
though?
Wait, do I
We
have
can have
enough?
a private tutorial.
Do I
It's
have enough
okay.
blush on so I don't look washed? Yeah.
You look gorgeous. I mean, I say that all the time to people when I see them and they look good. They look great. I'm like, adjust your lighting. You look great. I love the setup that you're in. I mean,
Well, thank you.
you're like the quintessential rock goddess right now.
Oh, thank you so much.
Welcome.
I'm gonna take that and put that in my pocket.
Sure. Do. But I also, I mean, just a question, curiosity wise, because obviously beauty's my thing. How do you reinvent yourself, or do you reinvent yourself? You've had so many hairstyles, so many looks through time. Are there things that you go back to? Because right now you're very like classic pinup to me, with the pony to high pony and the red lipstick. I love it. Are there things that or do you think there are expectations of female artists to be a certain way, and how do you navigate that?
Oh, absolutely. Where to begin on that? That's a multi-layered. I think that I guess to begin, I make it a rule. I think with just not only with music, but with the things that I wear and the way that I do my makeup or my hair, I make it a rule to appreciate the people that will both love it and then absolutely hate it, but that doesn't define me. So I don't really pay any mind to either or, because like you can think I'm awesome and that I look great. Cool. You can totally hate what I did, and that's okay too. All that really matters is what I think about myself. And I am ever evolving. And so it's fun for me. I think that I felt guilty for a little while because I kept evolving, and I feel like, especially when you travel so much, I feel like almost every couple months or every tour, I would become something else, and I would, it's different outfits. Oh, let me try this. It's like, it's not that I would get bored. It's just that I think that you hit a certain spot and you're like, oh, I want to try this now and see if I can pull that off. Now, as far as the double standard goes, yeah, I don't know. When I cut my hair really short a couple summers ago, there were a lot of people that were like, yeah, screw the system. I got literal, not to get morbid about it, but I got literal death threats about it. Like, there was just, people are very confused, and for some reason, I don't know. What I've realized with a lot of it was it's just their issue with trying, if a woman decides to look like a classic woman to a straight male who is very much afraid of his own sexuality or homosexuality or whatever he is afraid of and insecure about, he will lash out online because it's very confusing. It's like, I don't know. I really liked this girl, but now she's got short hair and she kind of looks like a dude, and I don't know how to feel about that. Was my conclusion with a lot of it. So at the same time, I feel bad for those people. I'm still the same person. There was one moment that I still chuckle about. This guy. So we're at a festival, and we had this hour-long meet and greet at FYE, and everyone, basically the way that works is that, if you buy a CD, you come in and you get a picture and you get our autograph kind of thing. So this guy literally paid for a vinyl, waited for an hour in line, and then the first thing he says to me is, "Fix your hair." and my guys in my band are like, "Fix your own hair. You're bald. What are you doing?" They got all upset about it. But it's funny because, like, really, truly, with everything that I do, and I say this to a lot of, our young fans, and I'm such an advocate about speaking to middle schoolers and young people that are just trying to find themselves and own their weird, is that you have to just chase after whatever you love. It's life is too short. You have to make yourself happy, because you're never going to make everybody happy all the time. Never. It's like someone's always going to hate it. Someone's always going to be weird and love it. It doesn't matter, and just be thankful that you are in that extreme. What would be worse is that if you're just like, oh, yeah, they're okay, or she's okay, or it's all right. You never want to be middle ground. You want to be loved and hated. So anyway.
That's so true. I think my mother's favorite quote from Katharine Hepburn was, "Please yourself. That way you can guarantee one person's happy."
Yep. That's a great quote. Absolutely.
Right. So we should all do that. Well, I think it's interesting. I mean, whether or not this is used for, the red carpet, but I think it's a very interesting thing to ask. And I love that. I love that you are telling young women, just celebrate yourself and find who you are and not worry about that.
I met this woman in LA. I was at this writing session when we were making our first record, and this woman walked in, and she was kind of like, I think she was a jazz artist. She was in the same studio, and she walks in, and she's a tall woman. She was like pushing 6 feet. She was tall, but she had these platforms on that made her even taller. So she was just like towering over everybody, and she had a very prominent nose. For a woman, and but she would wear these big Sally Jesse Raphael glasses, like if you remember, like those like big red glasses, and I walked by her. I'm just like, I love your whole thing. This whole look is amazing, and she literally stopped what she was doing. It must have been on her mind or something, and she says, "Well, I was teased for being tall. And I was teased for having a big nose. So when I became an adult, I said, well, this is part of who I am, and I'm going to accentuate those two parts. You got to celebrate what makes you different." And I thought that was really cool too. So, yeah.
I think that's wonderful advice. Yeah, agreed. I love that.
Yeah, so it's good to be a part of it. And I mean, you have the little things about yourself that like maybe remain consistent. Like I definitely have way too many leather jackets, and that's probably the thing I wear the most. But yeah, where I'm able to evolve and expand, have fun,
Yeah. Explore always.
I've never shaved my head though. I've gotten pretty short, but I've never done that.
I think it would look amazing, but I don't want that guy coming after me. So you're crazy fan.
Okay. I'll just be like, I'm matching you, bro.
Right? But I could see you with a shaved head, because you look like you have a nice shaped head, and that's where the key is. It has to be
I'll
flat or disformed.
Like if I haven't done it before, I'm like,
or heck, do a bald cap in a video. That's easier.
Right, that's true.
We makeup artists are willing to work.
I was gonna say, I'll call you next time I do that.
Sure, I'll bring a bald cap person. I do beauty.
It's a date.
Anyway, it was so great meeting you, and I know we're gonna have another appointment coming in, and I know that you have stuff to do. So thanks so much for being here. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you, darling. Thanks for having me, and yeah, I can't wait to embrace you on the other side.
Definitely, me too.